Hello and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Zara.
I'm Lucy.
This week, a residential college at the University of Sydney made headlines over what's being labelled a bullying incident involving a mock trial and a sex toy. It's not the first time colleges at this university have made headlines over such behaviour, nor is it the first time this specific college, St Paul's, has been the subject of newspaper investigations. In today's deep dive, TDA's copy editor Lucy is here to explain the latest scandal and the history of these colleges. A quick heads up that this deep dive deals with matters including sexual assault and rape. If you're not in the headspace to watch this video, we'll be back again on Monday morning.
Zara, I didn't live at a residential college at uni, and yet I somehow have learned quite a bit about how they work, their initiation rituals, their extracurricular activities. And I think that's because when I was in my first few years at uni, that was 2016 to 2018. And that was a time when there were a series of reports into Sydney uni residential colleges and actually Australian residential colleges and their residents' behaviour. And this week's headlines really took me back to that time.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we were at uni at the same time and I feel like it was all anyone was talking about. But it's been a little while since then, and yet we're back here talking about colleges on today's podcast. I want to just zoom out for a second first. For anyone that's not familiar or who hasn't gone to university, can you just explain what exactly these residential colleges actually are?
So most Australian unis have some kind of accommodation available for their students on or near campus. It's not intended for everyone who goes to the uni to be housed all at once, but enough for like international students or students who live a long way away from the uni to live in. Some universities have residential colleges, which are typically, not always, but typically small historic residences with maybe a few hundred students, and each of these has their own unique established culture. Historically, these colleges were single-sex, but many are now co-ed. They put on shows together, they compete against each other in sport, and they throw parties.
I must say that's the thing that I remember from university was that the colleges always had parties.
Yeah. And just to give you a sense of how much these colleges cost, the Australian Financial Review recently reported that some can cost up to $40,000 a year. The college we're talking about today is St Paul's at the University of Sydney.
Okay, so what can you tell me about St Paul's?
St Paul's is actually Australia's oldest residential college. Historically, it's been all male, although last year it actually started accepting female students. 2 former prime ministers attended St Paul's a long time ago now, and it's currently home to around 300 undergraduate students.
Okay, so that's, if you trawl the website, that's what you're going to see. You're going to hear about the prime ministers and the history of St Paul's. But I feel like we wouldn't be talking about it today if what had happened this week was an isolated incident. Can you tell me a bit about, I guess, the controversies or the news headlines we've previously known and heard about St Paul's?
So something that is on the public record about St Paul's that is not listed on their website is that in the 1970s at the college's annual end-of-year dinner, it was traditional to hand out an award for the, quote, Animal Act of the Year. In 1977, journalists Anne Summers and David Maher reported that this was given to the resident who'd done something that, quote, contravenes commonly accepted social mores in some extravagant fashion. In early November 1977, actually 46 years ago to this weekend, Summers and Maher reported this was awarded to a man who had allegedly arranged for a group of men to rape his girlfriend with him, and these men were never prosecuted. This award was also handed out days after an 18-year-old girl named Annette Morgan was found murdered on the grounds of St Paul's. It was determined that she had been raped, and there's no suggestion that any residents of St Paul's had anything to do with Annette Morgan's rape and murder, which is unsolved. Both of these incidents were detailed in a 2018 report by the advocacy group End Rape on Campus Australia called The Red Zone, which explored sexual assault at Australian unis, particularly at residential colleges. That report followed a 2017 report by former Sex Discrimination Commissioner Elizabeth Broderick into the University of Sydney, specifically residential colleges. St Paul's did not participate in the first round of reporting, but following public pressure, they went and asked Elizabeth Broderick for a review that was then released the next year.
Okay, and so what did that review find?
So Elizabeth Broderick's specific review of St. Paul's is no longer available on their website. Our journalist Harry Sekulich actually went and asked St. Paul's and the University of Sydney for a copy. They didn't get back to him by the time of recording. So I'm going off media reporting.
So we can't actually access the primary source of that right now?
No.
Okay. And so what did it find based on, I guess, media reporting?
Elizabeth Broderick found a culture of widespread sexism, sexual harassment and bullying at the residential campus, including hazing, which is intense and often demeaning initiation rituals. The report included stories of first-year students being forced to eat sheep hearts and drink a mixture of goon and raw eggs. An article in Junkie said the report included stories of students being, quote, auctioned off to older students and dumped in the wilderness, and encouraged to bring women students to the bone room, a room full of alcohol and mattresses.
I feel like these hazing rituals, as they're called, are such an American concept. And so to hear about them or reports of them, you know, in Australian residential colleges just feels so foreign. But clearly it is a really widespread issue and it's very well documented. You mentioned 2 other reports aside from this one specifically into St. Paul's. Did those reports have similar findings?
Yes, it should be clear that these stories are not unique to St. Paul's. All these findings are echoed in both the Red Zone report about unis around Australia and Broderick's review of the other residential colleges at the University of Sydney.
Okay, and now 6 years have passed since that 2018 review of St. Paul's, and in that time the college has started accepting women, and that's what we've mostly read headlines about. Take me to this week. Why are we talking about it again?
So on Monday, the Sydney Morning Herald revealed that there had been a serious bullying incident at the college the previous week. On Tuesday, Nine-owned radio station 2GB reported a group of second-year male students held a fake court trial where another student was put on the stand. The student who, quote, lost the trial was reportedly gagged with a sex toy and verbally abused. CCTV footage showed who was present at the trial. The college then expelled 6 people who were directly involved and suspended 21 bystanders. St. Paul's warden, Dr. Ed Lone, who oversees day-to-day matters at the college, told TDA, quote, the college has been shocked and deeply disappointed that some of our students engaged in serious bullying of another student within their friendship group. Dr. Lone said the college would, quote, review and strengthen training to deal with bullying and harassment.
Okay, so we've seen the college leadership take very quick and I'd say decisive action in expelling all of those students and also suspending the bystanders, which I think is, you know, a very big topic of conversation. When you talk about bullying, often the bystanders go unscathed. So this is a really important, I guess, precedent set by the college. What's been the response more broadly from the university community, I guess?
So from the University of Sydney, Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Education Professor Joanne Wright told us she is shocked and deeply disappointed by the group of students' conduct. She said that any form of bullying or harassment is absolutely unacceptable and that she supports the disciplinary action the college has taken. Mm-hmm. And then the government has actually weighed in. So Education Minister Jason Clare told TDA the reports were sickening. He said that not enough has been done to tackle sexual violence in our universities and residential colleges, and that for too long, students haven't been heard. The government's response to this is something that's already underway. So they're actually rolling out a new student complaints body. It's called the National Student Ombudsman, and that's set to begin in February.
So that predates this incident or knowledge of this incident?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's going to be tasked with handling uni students' complaints of sexual harassment, assault and violence as kind of a body that's separate to universities. Mm-hmm. It remains to be seen how helpful this will be and what will end up happening at St. Paul's or any of these students.
Lucy, thank you for taking us through that. I know that when we posted this on our Instagram, so much of our audience felt so strongly about this. It's something that, you know, is very much in our space, young people, and how to tackle the issues that are putting them most in danger on a daily basis. We will be back again tomorrow with some good news, but until then, have a wonderful Friday.